Peace, family. How are you? Oh, Ram, good to see you, and welcome back to Amplify the Voices of the Global Majority Online Summit. How We Heal, Day 2, Session 3. I'm still here, Reggie Hubbard, and welcoming you into another amazing space and opportunity for intimate, candid conversation about healing, liberation, and presence. I can't believe that I have the privilege of being the space holder for everyone sharing their wisdom, not just the presenters, but the community. And I hope that you all have this feeling. I hope it feels like a community gathering to you, because sometimes in spiritual circles, we get into our silos, we get into our comfortable spaces, and we don't come out of our comfortable spaces to do the hard work of transformation, which tends to only happen in uncomfortable spaces. So thank you for coming here, and I want you to scroll through and eavesdrop on other people's screens, see the collection of humanity that we have here, and give thanks that a group of multi-identity, multi-racial, multi-generational people want to come together in these dystopian times to talk about healing. I give thanks. So I give thanks to each of you for being here, and also thanks to Kripalu, with whom I'm partnering in this endeavor. And Kripalu has joined forces with change makers around the globe, around the country, who are serious about working to dismantle inequity, mitigating harm, and stewarding the precious resources of the planet, human and natural, to prioritize collective wellness and stress interdependent liberation. Interdependent liberation. Again, we live in a culture that is addicted to the myth of independence, right? Interdependence is the rule of the cosmos, right? And the sooner we can remember that we're in this together, the better off we'll be. And that's what this series is to remind us to do. And just as a reminder, throughout history of the human experience, the voices of the global majority, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, have been the vanguard and the forefront of breaking down barriers, and actually not breaking down, tearing down barriers of systemic inequality that affect both the planet and humanity, while ushering in radical change. And sometimes that radical change is that remembering that there is no difference between us other than what we manufacture. And an example of this has been bringing yoga to the West, and in any example, liberation struggles of the people of color around the globe have been the fuel for inspiration for millions of us. So in these moments, at this time, let us come together and create a space where we do deep listening, where we heal historical wounds, where we try something different, because what has been working in the past, or what we have been deluding ourselves to think is working in the past, it ain't working now. And let us enter this work as an act of community care, because none of us are well if one of us is unwell. And again, my addendum is none of us are free until all of us are free. So welcome. Thank you for spending this next 90 minutes with us, wherever you are in the country. Our world is navigating ridiculous crisis. And so it ain't just one thing. It's one thing, another thing, then another thing. It's like a Fibonacci sequence of synergistic WTF. Like, what is happening, right? And these are personal and collective losses. It's climate disruption. It's pandemic. It is the delusion of it's when we forget that the pandemic happened, we're doomed to perpetuate certain things that we should have learned already. Global conflicts, political and social. This event allows us to hold space for the truth of these things, but also hold space for the truth that pathways towards our healing and liberation are also evident. We'll lean into ancestral practices, ancient technologies, the beauty of community, and the radical nature of presencing hope and joy that are required in our renewal. So let's take a deep inhale through the nose. Audible exhale. Almost there, y'all. We gather today on the virtual territory, Berkshire Hills of Massachusetts, the ancestral territory of the Stockbridge-Munsee Band of the Mohican Nation. I'm calling in from the Piscataway Nation in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. If you have not already, please share where you are in the world. I think the prompt has already been shared. And if you know the the lands of those who were there before you, please mention them as well. Kripalu stewards these lands in the Berkshire Hills as a nonprofit educational organization dedicated to empowering communities and people to realize their full potential through the transformative wisdom and the practice of yoga in all of its limbs. Our Amplify Voices series has been made possible through the generous gift of donors, and we thank them for their generosity to make events like this possible. And I'm always, having been a producer and now on air, thank you to those who are behind the scenes. Thank you to those of you for being here, because again, without production and an audience, there ain't no show. So thank you all for being here. And as a part of this collective space, we will center again our community agreements for the online community. These engagements and agreements were in the emails that you've received as a part of the summit. And for those of you who may not have read the email, we will place it in the chat for your review. So let's take a moment to come together to presence ourselves in this experience. And I'm going to shift up what I've been doing. I'm going to ask for those, if you can, bring palms together, create some friction in the palms. And if this is not comfortable for you, just find presence with feet on the ground. Deep inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Place your hands before your camera and send your good energy to someone else. We can't talk about interdependent healing if it's all about ourselves. So let's do that again. Friction in the palms for those of you that are comfortable and able. If uncomfortable or unable, just imagine building up good energy. Inhale through the nose to fortify this experience. Exhale out the mouth, send it to someone. Send this love and blessing to someone else. Then return hands toward the heart and notice how giving you can also receive. One last inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. If eyes have closed, open them. Welcome back to this present moment. It is now my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome Rashid Hughes for us to talk about mirror work, sacred archetypes as spiritual technologies. But before I read his bio, I'm going to give him the flowers he deserves. So one of the blessings of being moderator is once I'm on the mic, I can say whatever I want within reason. But Rashid, for those of you who don't know me, Kripalu and I are in deep partnership. And one of the things that Kripalu and I have created in the world is this thing called Permission and Refuge, Healing Retreat for Men of Color. And when I pitched Kripalu and they said yes to my wild dream of like making a healing retreat for Black men, Rashid was the first person I called. I was like, Rashid, yo, like our mutual friend Sarah says we need to talk, so let's talk. But I gotta talk about this thing. Like I pitched this big dream and they said yes. Shit, what am I gonna do? And Rashid not only just helped me workshop about where this thing was gonna go, it helped me remember that having a wild dream isn't a bad thing, especially when you can share it with a like-minded individual, when you can share with a like-hearted individual. So Rashid, thank you from the bottom of my heart for reminding me that it's okay to dream big.
Yeah, for sure.
And for just being there in spirit as this thing has matured into whatever it is come into. And so by way of other introduction, Rashid is a great human, solid brother, Dharma and spiritual teacher, writer, and healing justice practitioner. He's the co-founder of the Heart Refuge Mindfulness Community and author of Rest is Resistance, a clarion call for a culture of care, what has never been more true today. In Mirror Work, Rashid offers a framework to engage sacred archetypes as spiritual tools for transformation and liberation, especially in chaotic times like these. Without further ado, Rashid Hughes.
All right. Peace, everybody. And thank you, Reggie. And thank you, Kripalu, for just this opportunity to hang out with you all. It's 108 of us on here today. Wow. Yeah. So this is really a blessing to be here. And and of course, my big sister Michelle was on here before me, just dropping so much wisdom and just so many jewels. So happy she kind of like cleared the space out for me, right? She came in and open the channels uh for me to step into. So yeah, I'm really just grateful to be here. And I was looking, it's funny, I was looking at looking at the title. I was like, wow, that's a like really like dense title. Like I hope I can cover all of that. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about mirror work. We're gonna be talking about what I'm calling sacred archetypes, and also um just really what it means to be human in this moment. Okay. But I want to start first by just acknowledging just my roots. So I always start off by just pausing and just giving thanks for my mother, Cheryl Hughes, and just pausing and just remembering where I am. My mom is also here. And pausing and giving thanks for my dad, Frank Hughes, remembering that where I am, my dad is also here. And just pausing and inviting you all to give thanks for your lineages. Doesn't have to be parents. And just taking a moment to remember that we all are the continuation of so many acts of kindness, so many acts of generosity, so many prayers, so many tears. Okay, so I wanted to open with a quote. It's a quote that really helps me to kind of bring into perspective all of the kind of things that I've been reflecting on around mirror work and working through the chaos and all that's happening right now. It's a quote by Howard Thurman. It says, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and do it." Because what the world needs is people who've come alive. Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I thought this quote was really relevant because oftentimes when we begin to have discussions and we come together to talk about, you know, all the shit that's happening in the world, it's easy to really get pulled into the space of doing and forgetting that what we do matters just as much as how we are being as we do what we do. And for me, this quote of Howard Thurman, it brings us back to the space of starting here and making sure that we don't forget that part of what the world needs is for us to come alive and to be transformed in heart and in mind, right? And this is really what kind of just feels urgent to me right now in a really simple way. It's just really reflecting on what it means to come alive, but also what are the resources, what are the spiritual resources that we can call on to support us in this awakening and coming into our own aliveness, right? And that first means that we have to care. right? Like we have to care about how we show up in the world, and we can't afford to be indifferent or neutral. So part of that for me is looking like making sure that I take time to slow down and take time to be able to be with others and to find ways of grieving. I was talking to a friend the other day. We were at a coffee shop, and I was just asking him. I'm working on some writing about care, collective care, and I was just like, like what's really important to you right now? And he told me that he feels saddened that we're facing so much just ongoing devastation in the world, but we aren't taking time to pause and to really feel into what that devastation feels like in our bodies. Like we're being forced to move on really quickly, right? And that's becoming something that's familiar to us. Like something happens, we move through deep, deep, deep times of suffering, and we pick up the next day and we move on as if we just let it be in the past. So part of like what I want to talk about today is what it means to not ignore what's happening in us, to really care about what's happening and moving through us, and to call on and ask for support from the more than human world, the more than human realm, to help us navigate all that's going on that we're facing. And this begins to bring in like my theme around mirror work, because sometimes when we're moving through times where it's unfamiliar and we really don't know what to do, we need to have symbols and archetypes to help us navigate through the turbulence that we're moving through at the time. Because we like honestly, like if you look throughout time and culture, in different cultures, spiritual traditions, like most cultures have never existed without some type of practice of opening to the more than human realm, right? And what that means to me, what that communicates to me is that they recognize that we were never meant to bear the burden of the world on our own, right? And it's in a sense, it's very egotistical to me to think that we can actually exist in this realm without relying on some degree of guidance. We can just say guidance, right? Like we were never meant to try to have to navigate this human experience and to try to find meaning and to just work through all of this and just make sense of this just on a very just practical level by ourselves. That's why we have myths. That's why we have legends. That's why we have teachings. That's why we have uh, rituals and ceremonies so that we can remember, right? So I guess we are talking about remembrance in a sense when we're talking about tuning into these archetypal energies that can support us into awakening into deeper understandings of who we are, but not only who we are, but usher in and to foster energies of compassion and wisdom in the process of of living in this time. But I just want to keep reiterating the mantra of we were never meant to carry this and to do this on our own. And there's a Rumi quote that I found has been really supportive to me, just a returning to the understanding of not carrying this, not doing this, not attempting to push through, to force myself through my own willpower and my own sense of understanding. And the quote is, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. So it's pulling me back. I'm inviting us to like just this motion is coming to me right here. It's like a balancing of looking inward and opening outward, looking inward and opening outward. And looking inward meaning not just to our own understanding, but it's more of an expansive inwardness that includes ancestors, that includes guardians, that includes wisdom beings, light beings, and what I'm just simply calling spiritual archetypes or sacred archetypes. And I'm not here to tell you what sacred archetypes to connect with, you know, but I am kind of just inviting us to inquire together on what it might look like if we considered the more than human world as being an intimate part of what we are being called to usher into this realm. Okay. Yeah. So let's do a grounding. I know I just shared kind of a lot right here, just as an introduction, but maybe we'll pause. Let's just look in the chat. What's coming up for you all right now? Just what's kind of percolating. I don't know if anybody remembers the percolator. It was a dance, but it's been celebrating the anniversary of that recently, so maybe that's why it's moving through. But what's coming up? Uh, I remember what is arising and percolating right now. And, we were never meant to carry this on our own. Yes, it's okay to be still. Community, curiosity, love. All right, so I want to invite you all to join me in a grounding practice. And then I'm going to just share a little bit more specifically around sacred technologies. So if you feel okay with just finding a posture that feels good for you in this moment, and this is just a practice to help us to connect with just the tenderness in our hearts. And that goes back to me talking about caring. Like if we don't have any tenderness in our hearts, we won't be able to feel the importance of why we need to be alive in this moment, like not just existing, but alive. And it's a just a variation of a bodhicitta practice, So awakened heart, soft heart practice. So just feeling the weight of your body in your chair or on the surface that you're resting on and sitting on. And just noticing the felt sense of any places which your body is being supported by what's holding you. And maybe scanning just your body, just feeling the face, feeling your shoulders, scanning down through the body, just kind of greeting the body, welcoming the body into awareness. And just seeing if there's any way that you might generate a little gratitude for this moment in any way that feels right for you. Could be for breath, can be for community, can be for teachings and practice. Finding something to connect with the tender heart of gratitude. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, we might reflect on just the many acts of kindness that have helped carry us to being here today. Maybe acts of kindness through people that you know, acts of kindness that you can remember in your life. Knowing that so many acts of kindness are alive in us, carrying us that we don't even remember. Just feeling that gratitude for the kindness, the energy of kindness that is moving us, keeping us here. And feeling that kindness in our hearts, just holding the wish that we might be able to be vessels of kindness to others too. So the kindness doesn't just stop with us, that our bodies, our words, how we experience the world might be informed by kindness. And even with that beautiful motivation to offer kindness to others, we also remember that there's hardship, that there's pain, that there's suffering. And we don't want to become numb to that. We don't want to fall asleep to the suffering and the pain. So we welcome in the wish to relieve it, to dispel it, to annihilate it. So then we feel our hearts, we feel our being opening up and just radiating out in all directions the wish that all beings might be free, that all of life might be free. And we feel that radiating out through every pore of our bodies, all the pores of our body. And so just welcome you back into the space if your eyes were closed. And just, I would love to just open it up. Maybe if folks can unmute, if maybe if like three people, anybody want to just share, just after connecting with your heart in that way, what feels important to you right now? Like what's feeling important to you? Yeah, so you can raise your hand or type in the chat. What feels important to you?
We have Emily.
Hi, Emily. So glad to be here. What felt important to say was that I already felt mirrored when you talked about your friend saying we're not having time to process what's happening. I
Yeah.
feel like it feels like, I grew up in an alcoholic home, and this is what it feels like. The country has felt like that for the last 5 years before where we even are now. Like we shut down. It was just like, okay, we're moving forward. Everything's fine. It felt exactly like a huge fight happens the night before, and then we wake up in the morning and everything's fine. Don't talk about it. Keep going. And that's what it feels like. So I raised my hand because my heart felt seen by hearing you say that. Like, yeah, I don't feel like I've had time to process that. And now it feels like it's just crisis to crisis. And I can intellectually say, okay, this is a strategy. This is a strategy that people are using. But how does my heart feel in that? So the tenderness to feel held in this space together is really, really healing. So thank you.
Mhm. You see, we have some responses in the chat. Anybody else? Maybe one more person before I move on a little bit. What's kind of feeling important to you all right now? Anybody want to raise their hand? And Jessica.
Yes, hello, and thank you so much for those words. And a lot is resonating with me. And I also did hear something that's been coming to me over time. And I don't even watch the news that much, but I feel things and I know things, and I kind of don't want to know, but I do, but I don't, if that makes sense. And what has been coming through for me is this very big feeling of I'm not ready for this yet. And I don't even know what it is. It just is, I am not ready for this yet. Like a feeling of overwhelm, I would say. And I love how Emily just mentioned her experience and how that felt for her. And I can also relate to that. That made sense and inspired me to raise my hand. What did I put in the chat? Now I don't even remember what I put in the chat, but it was something, holding space for one another, right? Not needing to understand, not needing to pacify somebody else, not needing to fix anything for anyone, but just holding space for one another, regardless of where we come from or what our experience is or where we are in the world. Just holding space, like holding a safe space, I would say. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate so much wisdom coming forth in the chat as well. Um, Jessica, what you shared about just feeling overwhelmed, just want to name that you're not alone in that, of course. And also, as I was reflecting on and just preparing for this session, I was reflecting on how there's this beauty in being able to acknowledge, I don't know what to do. Right? There's this beauty that can come forth from like, I can't take any more of this. Because that's a humility that allows the heart to soften, right? And a lot of what's happening in the world right now is that people are feeling forced to harden the heart and to push through, right? And part of what I'm offering here today is an invitation for us to let that conditioned way of living in the world, of hardening and ignoring, let's replace that with something different where we honor our human vulnerabilities. Right. It takes practice, right? It's not easy because, we all come from different lineages, but we all share a lineage of being human. And part of that means, as being human, we've learned and we've been taught how to survive. We haven't been taught how to come alive, right? Many of us, our spiritual paths have supported us with coming alive, right? But a lot of us have had to navigate moving in the world in survival mode, right? So part of our work is acknowledging that, wow, like, you know, a lot of how I've been living is to protect myself from having to feel everything on my own. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, collective care and community, right? Like we weren't meant to carry this alone. And sometimes it can be rewarded, in this society for looking like we can carry it alone, which is just not true. Nobody's carrying anything alone. Right. So, part of my invitation today is for us to like really feel into like the sorrow of having attempted or having had to carry so much in our hearts without having the adequate community and support to hold us in the process of falling apart when we name it. That's part of the grief work, right? That's part of the work. It's honesty, right? It's being honest. And the beautiful thing about it is that we have teachings and we have spiritual archetypes that can help us foster awaken qualities of the heart like wisdom and compassion and care and patience so that we don't feel that we're holding everything on our own anymore, right? And this is about recognizing that we are actually the technologies, right? Technologies are mediums for transmitting information, right? So we start by saying, wow, like I'm in a lot of pain, like I'm carrying a lot. I don't know what to do. I can't carry any more help, right? Like I need help, right? Should not be something that we are afraid to say, right? I need help, right? So for me, when I'm talking about spiritual archetypes, and in my particular practice, we call it like deity yoga. Like for me, it starts, and even from growing up in the Black church, like it starts by laying it all at the altar. Right? We like it's a practice of in the Black church, we come to the altar and we lay our burdens down. And that what that is, it's a gesture, it's a moving, it's a stirring up inside of us what's been kept down or packed down by the weight of attempting to carry it or to hide it, right? And part of me in this practice, what I'm inviting us into is like, do we do that, right? Are we doing that? And not saying that you have to, but just an inquiry. Because for me, this practice of considering that my body, my speech, and my mind are the technologies through which this sacred energy moves through. First, it starts with a humbling act of of surrendering so that something new can come through, right? And I know surrendering is a complicated word, but hopefully you all are feeling into what I'm saying, not just the words. So we are the technologies for the immaterial, right? To enter into the material world. So our bodies, our minds, our words, our action become mediums for compassion and justice to flow through. So part of connecting with sacred archetypes and encouraging you to explore what those archetypes are in your cultures and your traditions. So part of that is we consider that on our own, we don't have all of the answers. Right. So we open to resource. We open so that we become resourced rather than exhausted. Okay. And this is where the mirror part comes into what I'm talking about. It's like the mirror work is like we need to be able to to have some symbolic representation that can reflect back to us what's inside of us that we want to come alive and offer to the world, so that we engage and live our lives differently, right? So it's like Einstein talked about, like we don't attempt to solve the problem at the same level of the problem, right? You know, and if we continue to attempt to solve the problem at the same level of the problem, right, we soon fall into despair and hopelessness. And that goes back to like this part of me that's really feeling that there's always going to be suffering here. There's always going to be chaos. But if can we look at the suffering as this chaos as opportunities for connecting to other ways of being in the world that at this moment we may not be seeing reflected back to us. So that we might become the inner conditions needed to have the new visions for the new world we want to see come into being. And this is not like an ego, like a super ego thing where it's like, oh, now we become like super people. It's actually becoming, it's actually, it's it's this act of pouring out, actually. Like it's this pouring out of self so that it's this pouring out so that we might see more clearly, right? And feel more deeply. Lama Rod and I, we were doing, I don't know if anybody knows Lama Rod. If you don't, check him out. We were facilitating a retreat in Colorado last year, and we were talking about deity practice and more than human world. And what kept coming to me was drag, right? Like drag in the sense of clothing ourselves with awakened liberatory representations of who we are until we feel it in our bones, right? Let me say that again. I need to write that down. Like we clothe ourselves with these awakened heart and mind qualities until we feel it in our bones and we know it to be who we are, right? And that helps us to come alive, right? So it's not faking, right? This goes back to a conversation I had with my dad years ago, conversation about the Black church. And in the Black church, there's a lot of movements. There's a lot of um uh embodying different presences, right? Or they might say one presence, depending on the tradition. But they're manifestations of the spirit moving in us. And sometimes it's speaking in tongues, sometimes it's dancing, sometimes it's running. And me and my dad always have these cool conversations about the realness of it and the fakeness of it. Because you see a lot of phony shit happening too, right? So that's black people, we always have these conversations like, is that shit real or are they making that shit up, right? Until it hits you, right? and you'd be like, oh shit, not me, right? But then you want it, right? So it's like, one thing I told my dad, I was like, sometimes you have to you have not fake it, but sometimes you have to just do it even though it may not be truly realized yet, right? So just follow me. Sometimes maybe you don't really feel like jumping and shouting, but sometimes you got to jump and shout until you get the real feeling, right? So you kind of open the jumping and the shouting until you get the feeling. It's kind of like the opening yourself to become the medium for the jumping and shouting to come alive in, right? So rather than judging people, I'm gonna come back, y'all. So just follow me. I was a black church minister too, so kind of going off and coming back. But part of the practice is we jump and shout and we wear the clothing of the archetype until we feel ourselves actually becoming it in our words, in our speech, and in our action, right? And this is where I come to the drag, right? We recognize that it's something that we're wearing, but the wisdom that comes from wearing it rather than wearing the conditioned patterns of the world of hatred, of domination, right? Of ill will, right? Rather than clothing ourselves with that over and over again, we clothe our hearts with these archetypal representations until we become those in the world, right? So I'm inviting us into practice, right? So, I could name archetype. You can Google archetypes, right? Spiritual archetypes, right? So like Kuan Yin is a common Buddhist spiritual archetype where, Kuan Yin's she who gazes at the world with compassion, right? But just think about what it's like to develop a practice of contemplating, reflecting on, sitting with, making offerings to spiritual archetypes that embody the spirit of one who gazes at the world with compassion, right? And one way that we do that, in addition to the meditation, the visualization, the chanting, is that we can even sit like the archetype, right? And that's a part of the of embodying it until we foster the qualities that same archetype possesses. Okay. So I'm gonna pause here because I've kind of shared a lot. I just want to check in with you all. Just honestly, asking you all to reflect back to me. What are you hearing? Like what's coming alive in you? Anybody want to raise their hand and unmute?
And in the chat, we do have some popping in fake it till you make it and act as if until it comes from your truth and heart.
Mhm.
Rashid, I'll share something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Reggie. Um, you ever seen a bird learn how to fly?
Mm, mm.
I had the opportunity to see a bird and it's running and it's trying and it's all over the place and then it gets it
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I saw this bird like the first two times totally sucked. Like he was running and fell a couple times, but then he
Mm-hmm.
got it together, and the next thing you knew, that little bird was gone.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that's what you shared reminded of me that vividly of the image of that bird. I was like, "You gonna be all right?" And then I was like, "Whatever." Then he just next thing you know, that brother was gone.
Yeah.
But the first three times it was not.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying like, "Dear bird, I hope you learn how to fly." Then by the time the prayer was done, it was on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like we begin to feel our way through the chaos rather than to think our way through it, right? We begin to feel what's possible. Like we begin to feel differently, that we can offer different arrangements of living in the world. And it starts through like being resourced and feeling how we want the world to be first, right? And we return to that image, right? That's the mirror work. We return to it. Like when we feel ourselves falling into despair, into hopelessness, and we feel ourselves kind of at rock bottom, we go back to the mirror, right? We go back to the mirror and we look into the eyes of the sacred archetype so that we remember. And we do that as many times throughout the day that we need to, right? We carry pictures in our wallets or in the dashboard of our car or in our pocketbooks or whatever so that we remember. Because when we move through the world, it's easy to forget. And then this is how we become the medicine for our times. But we become the carriers and the mediums of what's missing in the world, not waiting for the conditions outside to change, but embodying the feeling and the consciousness of the sacred archetypes by doing our mirror work ongoingly. Rita, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity, Rashid, and your wisdom as well. I'm just going to really just continue what you just last said because I found that in the past, like before this year, it was good to eat right, exercise, meditate. But now I feel like every moment is the opportunity because every moment there is something to meditate on that I need to change in myself. So the suffering in the world is in my face. And it was nice the other day when I just woke up and realized I'm going to just start this day by praying and meditating. And then was able to do that more often through the day. And it's what I need.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a lot in the chat as well. Let's take a look at the chat. Anybody else want to unmute and share anything before we go into I want to do a short guided practice where we kind of put on the clothing a little bit. Um, Anybody else want to share? And you don't have to have a completely thought out thought to share. Uh-huh. I see Peggy.
Hi. Um, my takeaway is the the healing is not running away.
Mm, mm,
Is not because I've been thinking well, where can I go? Which country should I go to? Where? And I realized there's nowhere to go. I need to. So as you talk about collective care from the start, it resonated with me. The because it's working it through other people with other people.
Mhm.
As the prior speaker said, it's bringing the benevolence spirit into
Mhm.
play, and
Mhm.
it's not hiding, it's not cursing the others, it's the healing is in the collective care and
Mhm.
being kind and being grateful and I and so it starts with me looking in the mirror and seeing that benevolence and bringing that out.
Mhm. Mhm.
I can't hide anywhere
Mhm. Yeah.
because that's not healing
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always, Peggy, kind of thank you for that. I ask myself, when we look in the mirror, who do we see and how do we feel? Right. And if we don't feel alive when we look in the mirror, I'm not saying that we need to say like 5 affirmations every morning of I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. I'm not talking about that mirror work. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But what if we look in our traditions, our lineages and cultures, wisdom tradition, like what archetypes might we look at to help reflect and support us in the process, right? So it's like channeling archetypal energies isn't like a fixed state where like you got it now, right? It's not like 2 + 2 = 4. It's like 2 + 2 = -1, right? It's not a fixed thing. It's a process of coming alive, right? So and it's important to remember this, the process, so that we have to offer ourselves, we have to be really gentle and tender with ourselves with this, because we're not trying to fix ourselves. It's more so about remembering who we are rather than trying to fix ourselves, right? We're not even trying to change ourselves. It's like through remembering and seeing over and over and over again, and until it becomes us. Yeah. Vanetta, I saw you had your hand up for a while. And then Ram.
Hi,
Peace, Vanetta.
how are you? Thank you so much for unmuting me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this is my first time being with all of you, and it's everything that you were saying and everything that the gentleman was saying prior to, like, this is exactly where I need to be. Um, so I really feel everything, and I recently lost my mom.
Mm.
So this sort of mirroring uh, everything that you're talking about regarding mirroring, and the Rumi quote that you gave was just so spot on. Uh, I guess what I'm feeling is it's so important to, like, obviously it depends on where you're at in your life and what kind of grief state you're in and what trauma state you're in. Um, Sometimes you can't look in the mirror, sometimes it's just too hard. But the thing that I have realized within being in this deep grief that I am in and will continue to be in, and it's an ever flowing and changing um, experience for me. So I was very close to my mom. I was very close to my parents, my whole family. Um, they're still inside of me. I am operating with many of their cells in my body as I walk through, as I continue on this planet as this being. And to honor them is to listen to what they're saying. So the mirroring aspect of this is so interesting because it's like you're looking at your past, you're looking at your young self, like you are looking at all of the parts of you leading up until this moment, where you don't have those core people on this planet anymore. So you really mirroring yourself is different. And the ancestral trauma that you talked about, like the sort of honoring the ancestors, if we can sort of harness a better existence, like if I can continue to be my best self as often as I can in any way that I can and fight like hell for it, it's also honoring my ancestors, and it's also like demolishing like their trauma as well, like past trauma. Like I want to break that cycle of having that anxiety, because I don't have that support system that I'm used to having. So now it's just like, it's just all me. I look in the mirror and I'm like, it's just you, girl. Like, that's it. And you either make it happen or you don't. And some days I can, and some days I can't. Most days I can't. But there are, like today, I did a really amazing thing. So I really celebrate that. And I don't know if that's just big old mishmash of thoughts, but I'm really following everything that you're saying, and it's really resonating, and I feel it really deeply in my heart. And I'm just very grateful to be here.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm grateful for you being here, especially losing a parent. I know that's not easy. Um, and your words aren't mishmash. I think part of what we have to do is demolish the idea that we have to have completely sound thoughts when we're sharing. Like,
Excellent point.
yeah.
Another excellent point.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
practice and the work that you're doing. Yeah. Yeah. So I see we have Ram.
Peace, brother.
He's, mm,
Um, I resonate with what you said about 2 + 2 = -1 because I wrote something in the chat, and then as you were talking and I was processing, eh, I was just noticing how what I wrote in the chat was just like expanding into like other levels.
mhm,
And um, the idea of archetypes are invisible.
mhm,
So I wrote that, and now it makes more sense to me as I was listening that really I am the mirror.
mhm, mhm,
So there's me, there's the true me inside that's looking at this mirror, which is all of the
mhm,
activities, all of the past, present, future, all of the different dimensions. That's the mirror that I'm
mhm,
reflecting off. And so it's the Atman that's ever present.
mhm,
And then I think about like um, different states of mind, different emotions, and this idea of be who you want to be. Like you can create that. It's maybe you're not maybe you're creating it, maybe you're just tapping into the source.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and then practicing. Like there are times when I'm in the presence of whatever situation I'm in, and I just practice. I do a practice in that, like I'm talking to myself, do this practice. Um, and it's like I'm watching what's happening in that space, and it's like I wonder if people even know like I'm doing this practice, but I'm doing like a certain type of breath or whatever that's making me feel and hear the energy of the ancient wisdom.
mhm,
And then, there are those times where it's just like really watching the how the intuitive unfolds. Like, um, and it can be simple. It could be like it could be so simple yet so precise, where driving somewhere, it's the wrong place, but there's somebody there to tell you to go to the right place. Then you go to the right place, and all the seats are taken, and somebody has a chair for you.
Mhm.
So it's like tuning into um yeah, like tuning into understanding who I really am, and
Mhm.
shedding this sense of I'm looking at I'm looking at this whole process
Mhm.
of living. And when you get to a certain age like me, you've experienced like so many different
Mhm.
situations, death, birth, marriage, like you
Mhm.
experience so many different things. And then it's like, uh, uh how, like, what am I going to? Where am I headed? What is the transition? And then I realized that there are ways to like enhance tapping into it,
Mhm.
or catalyzing it, like
Mhm.
drumming or dancing, where I can break free from that limitation of being other than whatever archetype that um, I'm tapping into, or that's
Yeah.
utilizing me. Or
Mhm.
so I appreciate what you said too about it doesn't have to be a well structured sentence, paragraph. It's just like flow. It's
Yeah.
like flow and energy and being and experiencing.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate you bringing all of the, you bringing this opportunity, bringing this up for this expression to happen.
Absolutely. Thank you for your share. I mean, it sounds, when you were talking, like what I was hearing, like it's all, if we were to simplify everything that I'm saying, everything we're talking about, it's about the question inquiring, like, who am I really? Right? Who are we really? So let's do a quick 10 minutes practice, right? To help bring this down to earth a little bit more. And I appreciate all the shares, all of the questions. And I appreciate you all reflecting back because, a lot of this for me is you all helping me to sense into what I've been sensing into. So I appreciate us kind of just being a collective inquiry together. Okay, so just want to invite you all to find a comfortable position again. Just once again, feeling the weight of your body in the seat. Connecting with the felt sense of just having a body. And maybe just connecting with the rhythm of your breath, feeling the body breathe in, feeling the body breathe out. Really just feeling the support of just like your circle of care, like those beings that have supported you in your life, who've offered you kindness and care and love, and imagining that, and just feeling, just subtly, just knowing that there are many beings that we don't know who are also here supporting us and offering us and wishing us well. Just resting and just let's rest in the silence with them for just a minute. Notice what happens when we sense that we aren't here alone, that we're being witnessed by benevolent, loving gazes, vibrations. And as we shift now our practice a little bit into kind of like what I'm just calling mirror work for a second, so I always want to remind you you can return back to just feeling the presence of loving energy around you if you need to at any point throughout the practice, or just coming back to your breath if you need to. Okay. So now I just want to invite you to imagine that you're kind of in a space that you're familiar with that has a mirror. So maybe if it's your bathroom or wherever you have a mirror that you visit a lot, so that it's easier for you to imagine it. So just imagine that you're kind of looking in the mirror and notice what it feels like to look at yourself, just to look at yourself as you are, right? Just like you're waking up, you're going in the bathroom to brush your teeth and you look at yourself in the mirror. Notice what comes up for you. Just recognizing what's happening as you're looking at yourself, not trying to fix it, not trying to make yourself love yourself, just really giving space for what's there to be there, and remembering that we're supported, being surrounded by many beings who love us at the same time. And while looking at yourself in the mirror, or just even if you can't see yourself, just feeling like you're looking at yourself, just kind of ask yourself, how do you want to feel in the world? How do I want to feel in the world? And allow what comes up to come up. How do I want to feel in the world? Or what would it feel like to truly be alive in the world? Just asking yourself that. And then imagine that you're looking in the mirror, but your image fades away. So it's just a blank mirror with no reflection. And then above your head, we imagine that the energy of love and care and kindness appears in the form of a radiant light. You can pick the color, something that you can easily visualize. The embodiment of loving kindness and compassion and deep care and the wish for others to be happy and well and free. Just imagine that that's all embodied in this bright light above your head. And it really embodies how you want to feel and what you want to offer the world. And then it begins to descend down into your body, infusing your body with the qualities of unconditional love, unconditional compassion, unconditional kindness, unconditional care, but also equanimity, courage, bravery, gentleness. And this begins, the light begins to spread throughout your entire body from head to toe. So your whole body is more like a light body now, where you're just radiating, infused with these qualities. And kind of feel yourself, allow yourself to feel empowered by this energy. the empowering feeling like you're actually made to be here, like you're supposed to be here. And lastly, I'm going to invite us to offer 3 ohms together. And the ohms just representing that we're affirming this empowerment together in this moment with the support of all wisdom beings throughout time and space. And on the 3rd ohm, I'm going to invite us to imagine that we open our eyes and we look back in the mirror and we see ourselves, but we see ourselves through the heart space, carrying the vision that we are how we want to feel in the world. Okay. So let's do one cleansing breath together. Take a deep breath in and out. And we'll do 3 ohms together. And on the 3rd ohm, it's like everybody's eyes. Well, invitation, if our eyes are a medium for sight for us, it can be an inner eye too. Kind of just flash radiating out that energy. All right. So let's do our first ohm together. Breathing in and oh. Breathing in. Oh. The last one, we open our eyes, just radiating it out, looking at ourselves. Oh. Just resting for about 15 seconds, just as a medium for how we want to feel in the world to be brought forth into the world. And let's just take a deep breath together and let it out. And honestly, y'all, I don't have too much more to share. It's been wonderful. It's been fun. And just want to thank you all for your practice. Thank you all for your time and your presence. And yeah.
Family, let's shower Rashid with gratitude in the chat, or maybe like this, but just give to the teacher what he has so freely given to us. So, Rashid, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for the reflections of reminding us that it's egotistical to think that we should go through this realm without guidance. The way that you framed that, I will be borrowing that and giving you attribution. So, with gratitude for the teaching tool. And also just reminding us that 2 things that stuck out for me. We share a lineage of being human,
Mm,
right? So the simplicity of that wisdom is that we may not share micro lineages, but we share the macro lineage of being human. And the last thing is reminding us that body, speech, and mind are the technologies to usher forth the world that we hope for. Thank you for that wisdom.
yeah.
And as someone who holds space for grief, and Vanetta and Allison articulated that they both recently lost their mother, we cannot have a calling of community care without me as moderator offering condolence for those who have expressed grief, offering condolence for those who have not expressed grief, because in this circle we all are equal. And I'm grateful for your courageous sharing, Vanetta, and glad that you showed up to be here with us. So blessing on the memory of your mother, blessing on your healing, Allison and Vanetta. And Rashid, deep bow of gratitude to you for holding up the sacred mirror and inviting us to witness ourselves more fully. And thank you for saying yes and for having the opportunity to work with you. It's been a true blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
Blessing, peace, and love. I'll show you.